So, this is me, Lastrina, when I was probably around 2 to 4 years old. And at this age, I probably did not know what I wanted to do in life. Like most kids here in Singapore, I went to school, did well for my PSLE, got into a good secondary school, did not do so well for my A-levels, and could not get into a public university. But at the end of the day, I still ensured that I graduated with at least a degree. Somewhere along my university days in 2010, I decided to apply what I learned in school outside of school. So I started to volunteer a lot with various environmental organizations in Singapore. And it was literally a lifelong learning for me. And from there, I got myself opportunities to attend various events like this one. So this was December 2014, where I had the chance to attend a 2-week UN climate change conference in Lima, Peru. And in one of the actions I participated in, I had my face painted with traditional markings, and I stood in solidarity with widows from the Soweto community. Soweto community is one of the indigenous community in Peru. So what happened was, earlier in that year, 4 community leaders were killed while defending their land against illegal loggers. And I learned that for years, these people were trying to obtain official land rights from their government, but failed to do so, and very little was done to address the situation. So from that small action, when I think of rainforest, I think of how it affects the local temperature and the local rainfalls. But from that action, I discovered how it was affecting local communities, and in this case, it was even resulting in deaths. So then I thought, we here in Singapore, we are either very sheltered or very ignorant with what was happening with the rest of the world. So what is going on with the rest of the world? Of course, there's lots of things happening every day, but what I wanted to share right here are 2 things. So one is population. So this is the projected population for the years 2030, 2050, and 2100 for the world and Asia in millions. So you can see briefly, population is definitely growing. And another event that I want you to take note of, the map is not too clear, but I hope you can see the colors. So this is multiple small maps of global temperature change from the years 1850 to 2016. So you can see visually how it has changed, from that blue color spots to all these red spots in recent years. So we can literally feel temperature is now rising. So with that background context of a growing population and climate change, what does that mean for us? How can we relate to that? How can people in Singapore relate to all these world events? Now, lots of studies and climate projections have been done to show what can go on in the next 100 years or so. For this particular study that I'm sharing with you here, it's focused on Singapore. And I'm just sharing with you 2 scenarios. And in these 2 scenarios, they say that sea level rise over here can be anything between 0.25 meters to 0.76 meters. And even with these numbers, leading scientists like James Hansen and several other scientists have come forward to say that the figures reported by the UN IPCC report, from which this report was referenced from, is very conservative because they do not take into account the potential disintegration of the polar ice sheets. So we can expect several meters rise instead of 1 meter's rise just by this century alone. And just to help you visualize how a conservative figure of 0.5 meters could look like, this is Singapore's current coast, and this is how a 0.5 meter sea level rise could look like. So you can see in the northeast region, parts of the land area is already submerged. So imagine how it could be if sea level rise is 1 meters or even 10 meters. And in the larger context in the ASEAN region, we have 8% of the world's population living on 3% of the total land area available. as it is, with global warming and how it's affecting global circulations, it's already affecting our food security and crop yields. It's causing more urban problems like increase in vector-borne diseases. So imagine how a growing population coupled with storm surges could affect all these land spaces. What then would happen to the people and to the living environment? Now, I'm not just trying to paint a gloom and doom scenario with you right here. What I want to share is that I feel it's important for each and every one of us to continue to be optimistic and hopeful that we can create change. That at the end of the day, we can come together to do whatever we can to the best of our ability to create a better world. And I feel everyone here in this room has that potential, has that skill and passion to change things. And I'm going to share with you 8 stories of local groups and their efforts, and their existing efforts, and just sharing with you some ideas of how you can get involved with them as well. And if you can think outside of the box, introduce new ideas to the movement. So, a very simple one. If you're someone who's interested in events, you can help compile environmental events. And by doing so, you're exposing other people to opportunities or events that's environment-related. So for us, in this group that I co-founded, Lepak in SG, we list anything from literature, education, politics, arts, creative events that has an intersection with the environment theme. And I think there's lots and lots of events happening in Singapore. One that I look forward to is Pesta Ubin, which is a 10-week-long festival happening at Pulau Ubin in May to July. So if you're interested in outdoor or explore Ubin, May to July is really a good period to be out there at Pulau Ubin. This next one's a pretty cool device, which I just found out recently. So this device is called the Flood Helmet. And what it does is it helps the user experience future flood scenarios based on the user's GPS location. And what the artist did, Ong Kian Ping, so his aim was to give that sensory, experiential experience to the user themselves so that they can see what kind of future holds for them. And one of his other works, Too Far, Too Near, even won him a President Young Talents Award. So if you're someone driven by, say, recognition, there's nothing wrong with that. But if that drives you to do more, then perhaps that's a track for you to explore as well. Another example is this Little Climate. And the lady behind it is called Suzanne Chu. So Suzanne worked in low-carbon, pro-poor projects in Southeast Asia region. And she thought that if rural villages in Laos and Cambodia can be using clean cookstoves and clean electricity to make a difference, so can we. And so she published a digital book of over 100 cartoons to do just that, to talk about climate change in a fun manner. If you're someone who's good at facilitating conversations or hosting gatherings, then you might want to consider hosting gatherings that's climate-focused. So the idea is simple, to leverage on food and people. Get friends over a meal, talk about climate action, and from there, the movement grows exponentially. The guy behind this is Chris Jensen, and he's trying to start the movement in Singapore. So if you're interested, you can visit b.ly/cc_SG later on. This is the other group I co-founded, Singapore Youth for Climate Action. I put up here as, if you're someone who's interested to organize events, then you might want to consider joining us or help to organize events and programs for other communities as well, and organize ones that is environment-focused. For us, the co-founders of SYCA, we are not necessarily the content expert, but what we do have is the skills in organizing events, and we do have networks, so people who are experts in haze issues or energy issues, people who can talk about branding and journalism skills, and we got everyone together to educate and empower more people. Another group that I think one might not relate haze with climate change, but the relationship is there, If you're someone who's annoyed by haze, for example, you might want to advocate for the protection of peatland and prevention of fires, because by doing so, you're then helping to advocate for the limit on carbon emission release. So the group behind this is People's Movement to Stop Haze. And this year alone, they're doing a lot more than the past 2 years. So they're rolling out a leadership program and even bringing people out to Riau, Indonesia for some projects to re-wet fire-prone peatland areas. Another example is up 2 degrees. So the idea is very simple, to get people to up their aircon temperature unit by 2 degrees so that you save energy and you limit carbon emissions release. And if you're someone who's good at digital marketing, for example, the lady behind this is Sandra Marikal. She's a professional in marketing and branding. And what she does is she tries to communicate all these ideas in a very fun and sexy manner. So if you check out the Up 2 Degrees Facebook page, for example, it'll give you some ideas on how you can communicate climate change in a more fun way, or you, as the participant, can help to contribute your skills and create more engaging content. So far, I've shared on how people can utilize their skills or leverage on their passion to act on climate. I think at the end of the day, it's also important to see how we can ourselves change our personal behavior and lifestyle consumption as well. And in Singapore, one group which is particularly doing a great job at this is this non-profit community called Roundup Initiative. They are based about 10 minutes from Khatib MRT, and they now have the size of 4 football fields, which is really a lot considering land scarcity in Singapore. And over there, people get to get themselves involved with farming, carpentry, and various leadership programs. And it's a platform for us to build our character, build our skills, and the Kampong campus is the place to go should you want to help build the soul and build the character of the city. So far, I think I've shared quite a few existing initiatives and ideas that's already here in Singapore. And if something interests you, I hope you connect with some of these groups as well. I think one might ask, what exactly can we do to help Singapore remain visible and not hidden in the face of climate change? Do we really leave it to government policies or climate-resilient infrastructures? Or you can also ask yourselves, what exactly can we do to touch the hearts and soul of people so that we inspire them to do more for climate action? Do we focus on environmental events, or do we create initiatives that get them back connected to the land? I think at the end of the day, it's important for us to reflect on these basic questions. What values do we want to live by? And what kind of home do we want to live in? Regardless of your thoughts on this, I hope that at the end of the day, everyone here can come together to do whatever we can to the best of our ability to create a better world. Thank you.